What if the reality of war wasn't defined by glory, but by chaos, boredom, and absurdity? In the Hooligans of Kandahar, former Army infantryman Joseph Kassabian pulls back the curtain on his deployment to Afghanistan, offering a raw, unfiltered, and often hilarious account of life on the front lines. This is not a polished memoir of heroism. It is a gritty, honest reflection on the mundane, the ridiculous, and the deeply human moments that define the soldier's experience. From navigating bureaucratic nightmares and dealing with eccentric locals to the sheer tedium of waiting for action, Kassabian captures the spirit of a group of young men trying to find meaning and entertainment in a war zone. If you are tired of sanitized military narratives and want to understand the true texture of modern combat, this audiobook will entertain you with its wit while grounding you in the complex reality of service. Kassabian begins by introducing his unit, a ragtag group of soldiers who defy the stereotype of the stoic warrior. The audiobook format is particularly effective here, as Kassabian's narration is conversational, self-deprecating, and deeply engaging. His voice acts as a friend sharing stories over a beer, delivering the text with a rhythm that highlights the humor in the hardship. Listeners feel like they are part of the squad, laughing at the absurdity of the situations while appreciating the underlying camaraderie. It creates an atmosphere of relaxed authenticity, replacing heroic myth with relatable truth. The core of the book details specific anecdotes from their time in Kandahar, such as improvised training exercises, interactions with Afghan partners, and the creative ways soldiers coped with stress. Kassabian describes the hooligan mentality, a mix of irreverence, resilience, and resourcefulness that helped them survive both the enemy and their own command structure. These sections are entertaining and insightful, offering a granular look at the daily life of an infantryman. The narrator guides listeners through these memories with clarity, ensuring that the cultural and military context is understood without losing the comedic timing. It transforms abstract war concepts into tangible human experiences. One of the most compelling aspects of the Hooligans of Kandahar is its refusal to glorify violence. Kassabian focuses instead on the psychological toll of deployment, the bonds formed under pressure, and the strange normalcy that emerges in abnormal circumstances. He discusses how humor serves as a coping mechanism and how small acts of kindness or rebellion can maintain sanity. These insights are psychologically resonant and socially relevant, appealing to veterans and civilians alike who want to understand the human side of war. The audiobook captures this nuanced perspective with a tone that is respectful yet irreverent. It reminds listeners that soldiers are people first. The book also addresses the challenges of reintegration, discussing how the lessons learned in Kandahar apply to civilian life. Kassabian reflects on leadership, teamwork, and the importance of finding purpose after service. These reflections are practically useful and emotionally mature, adding depth to the wartime anecdotes. The narration handles these transitions with wisdom, creating a vision of a life shaped by service but not defined by it. It invites listeners to appreciate the complexity of the veteran experience. As the story progresses, the stakes rise slightly as the unit faces more direct threats, but the focus remains on the characters and their reactions rather than just the action. Kassabian shows how fear and bravery coexist, and how ordinary people do extraordinary things simply by showing up. These sections are satisfying and realistic, marking the transition from observation to participation. The audiobook supports this narrative arc, with a pacing that balances tension with relief. The Hooligans of Kandahar concludes with an invitation to see soldiers as they truly are, flawed, funny, and fundamentally human. Joseph Kassabian leaves listeners with the understanding that war is not a movie, but a messy, complicated reality. For veterans, military families, or anyone interested in the true cost of conflict, this audiobook is an essential resource. It proves that sometimes the best way to survive is to laugh. So put on your headphones, lower your expectations of glory, and listen. The real story is waiting.